So we're being recorded, so I have a microphone. That's also to make sure that no one can sleep too much. I'll be so loud, it'll shake you from your slumber. All right, who here today said when they got out of bed, I've got to go get some new batteries for my financial calculator because we're going to be doing a math class today at lunch. All right, it's law firm finance. Did everyone bring their graph paper and abacus? No? How many of us on a routine basis are consulted by the law firm management committee saying, how should we make money? How many of us are consulted when the management team is sitting down looking at their profits and saying, how do we improve profits per partner? Some of us are consulted, but for the most part, the marketing segment within law firms is not perceived to be the cutting edge, the driving edge, the leading edge of generating revenue and profits. We're there to help and execute and come up with ideas and target better clients and so on, but we have an opportunity for this profession to advance it from a cost center to a revenue center or a profit center, where our leaders look upon us as critical to generating financial returns they want. And so part of that is we have to embrace a little bit of the understanding of what it takes to run a law firm. How do we make money? And what's really awesome about this topic is it's changing. So while we're going to cover some concepts in finance, it's going to be pretty easy. You're not going to be overwhelmed. We're going to cover those concepts, but that's really old school. This is how law firms have traditionally made money. And anyone paying attention in recent years has determined that there's something new going on. There's a different way to make money, or others are making money while we're making less. So what's going on? So we have an opportunity not only to embrace this role of marketing as a function, driving revenue and profits, but also us personally helping our leaders who grew up under one model and need help navigating this new model. So there's a real opportunity. There's a lot of slides that move pretty quickly. You have printouts there in front of you. But if you have questions, stop me. Raise your hand. Every once in a while, I'll say something. You'll say, I have no earthly idea what the hell he's talking about. If you're thinking that, someone else is too. Stop me, because I want to make sure everyone walks away with a real good practical understanding of how to take in this information and then go apply it tomorrow or this afternoon. So, 2 city groups, but yet when I went on the website, there was only one skyline. So to prove that I too am a marketer, I created another skyline for Columbia. Isn't that beautiful? You're welcome. All right, so you already heard about me. Bottom line is, this is stuff I do for a living. My background is not as a professional consultant, as a business person. I've run companies. And some of you have known me for years as the face of various organizations in our space. But my day job is running companies, running businesses, and running very, very profitable businesses. So these are real things that I do, not just ideas that I've read in books. And that's really, when I work with law firm leaders, I don't mess around. You know, I'm not there to baby them or tell them they're very, very smart. When it comes to these topics, they're often very, very dumb. So let's get through it pretty quickly. Who's read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? If you haven't, it's a really cool book. It helps understand the psychology of why it's so hard for this profession to change. Because we're like the little mouse who runs through the maze and gets the cheese every day, and then one day, the cheese is gone. And that's our lawyers, right? They've been trained since they were tiny babies to be the smartest person in the room. They've always excelled. They've always done things right. They've always practiced good law. They always made a good living. And suddenly things have started to change. Now, I'm not suggesting that people here work for firms where we're not making any money or our partners are destitute, right? What I'm saying is the trajectory is changing and they're confused. The cheese is not the end of the maze anymore. This book is a little parable about the mice who finds a new path and finds new cheese. But many of the folks we work with are unable to make changes. They just simply can't.
So not only about who moved my cheese, things changing, but also if you've encountered firm or firm leaders who say, well, what are the other firms doing? Like waiting for somebody else to make the first move.
What are other firms doing? And should we use that as a guide for what we should do? What a concept. I think I've heard that once or twice. But rather than, I mean, I poke fun at these folks, but rather than just poke fun at them, understand that this is their training. They are trained in law school to rely on precedent to guide their behaviors. And the reason the recent changes are such an upheaval to them is they have not seen other law firms adapt, because we've survived every other recession really, really well. And I'll explain that and I'll explain why. Right? But their precedent, their reliance on precedent can be a good thing. What we need to do is shift their focus to say, wait a minute, there are precedents. Every other business segment on the planet has gone through this similar disruption. And there's a clear roadmap for how to survive and thrive in this economy, in this world, in this disruptive market. But just because they don't look just like you because they're law firms or other businesses or other business segments or other functions, doesn't mean we can't learn from. So that's a great lesson. This is what it feels like at times to our lawyers, right? Mixed messages, right? We have a client panel at our law firm retreat, and the clients all say we want fantastic legal work. And then we read another report by Altman Wild, great report 2 weeks ago. You know, clients want lower rates. They want alternative fees, which is, for many of us, a euphemism for discounts, right? So we get mixed messages. And then we get these very puzzling messages. Who here has read client billing guidelines? Only a handful. Let me tell you. We're in marketing. We want to serve our clients' needs. They tell us in a document exactly what they value and how they'll value it by, well, whether they're paying us or not. If we want to be the voice of the client, go find your biggest clients, find out from accounting if there are billing guidelines, and go read them. Now, we're not going to be asked to consult on how the lawyers practice law and the management of their matters, but it certainly helps guide our behavior and where we're marketing and what we're doing and how we're positioning ourselves and our services by understanding what clients are valuing and what they're no longer valuing. But this is what it feels like, right? We use these client billing guidelines as sort of a filter at the back end of our process to make sure the invoices go out saying the right things, rather than way up front to say, if this is what the clients are saying, why don't we market differently? Why don't we service them differently? Why don't we treat them differently? Right? We're using it as a filter at the end, so I suggest we look at those. All right, here's another one. Oh, right, fine, great. You want an AFA? We'll do an AFA. I'm doing what you're told, what I'm told. And so the lawyers feel the pain. Why do they feel the pain? Sometimes it's not really huge pain. Maybe it's mild pain, right? But the idea is if the client says, I want an alternative fee arrangement or I want a discount, they do it. However, most of us work for employers whose compensation is based on billing hours. And if we have an alternative fee arrangement, which is by definition a non-hourly fee, or we offer discounts, we're not going to be compensated as fully as if we bill as many hours as possible. So there's a conflict. And rather than deem them selfish, right, we look at our lawyers and we say, how can you reconcile this? And so they find ways to, well, let's bill more for this other client. If client A is not going to pay us, we'll find a way to bill client B, or we're going to ask the marketers to go find his client C, D, and E, all of whom must be really wealthy, have a lot of money to spend on legal expenses, and have never read a document in the last 20 years about the decline in value of legal services. We want more dumb clients. Find them, please, hurry. Right? So it hurts sometimes when we do what we're told. So how do we reconcile that? Well, we have to understand how we make money and what's changing. All right, what is this? Wrong. I learned this the hard way. I think I was in Phoenix or Denver, one of those western cities where everyone wears cowboy hats and boots. And when you get to the airport, they fit you when you walk in. And I said, oh, look at the Conestoga wagon. And someone said, oh, Tim, I have to stop you. You Northeasterners know nothing about the West. This is just a regular chuck wagon or covered wagon. The Conestoga wagon apparently is these long sloping ones. They can go through the rivers without spilling water over the side. Who knows, right? There's a very rare chance that I'm going to get into a covered wagon, ever. It's 1860. I'm in St. Louis, the gateway to the West. I'm the CEO of the Covered Wagon Manufacturing Company. And I'm looking at my sales reports, and it says we sold 3 covered wagons in the last quarter. But wait a minute. We were selling 3 a day a couple of years ago. 1849, we discovered gold in California, so everyone moved west. If everyone wanted to buy a covered wagon, they had to go west. These covered wagons were going through the roof. They could not keep up with demand. Now it's 1860, we're selling 3 a day, or 3 a quarter. Would it be right to say that demand is down for covered wagons? Would it also be right to say that people no longer headed west? And the settlement of the western territories was over? No. You are history majors, I can tell. Across town, we've got the CEO of the train manufacturer, whatever Amtrak was back then, right? And this person is looking at the organization saying, we can't possibly keep up with the demand of trains, right? We are building tracks, we're starting in one city, in another city, we're meeting in the middle, they don't meet, we're building so fast. Or we're building them and they meet in the middle, but they're different gauges. Or we have to import labor from Asia because we don't have enough labor in this country to build train tracks fast enough. So would it be appropriate to say demand is really high for their services? Yeah. So the parable for our lesson, for our marketplace today is our lawyers are looking around, they're listening to pundits like me who read a lot of articles and give speeches, and they're saying, oh, woe is us, demand is down for legal services. Everyone's in the same boat. I think they're wrong. There are companies out there building, they're making products, they're suing each other, right? They're hiring people, they're opening up factories, they're doing commerce in multiple countries, they're shipping products, they're launching new things, right? They're doing commerce. The economy has picked up. It may not be back to where it was in 2007, but it's back, right? We're making money. Commerce is happening. When a lawyer says, oh, demand is down, that's often code for they're not buying what I'm selling, right? Let's not be the covered wagon manufacturers who are equating a decline in sales with a decline in demand. There are a lot of businesses that have a lot of needs for legal services. And so it's a bit of a cop-out when we can look around and say, well, we're all in the same boat. So until the entire market changes, I guess there's nothing really I can do except maybe hire some BD folks instead of marketers and have them go find us new clients. Because so somehow that magic pill is going to work. All right, so this was a couple years ago. Demand was a constant. We could raise our rates every year. It was like printing money. See gold bars. I guess you can't print gold bars. Well, wait, anyone have one of those 3D printers? You could probably print gold bars, although the toner would be really heavy. Probably. Anyway, so that a couple years ago, it was like printing money. Our lawyers grew up in a world where they didn't have to worry about any economics of their law firm because every year they raised rates, and every year that generated greater profits. So rates was the same as profits. And the way we made money was rates times hours, right? So I could always bill more hours, and people didn't complain, or they complained a little bit, but they didn't really do much about it. I could always raise my rates, and people complained, but they didn't really do much about it, right? So we always made money, always made money. Demand was a constant. Now, I'm not saying that those of you who are veterans and were around 10, 15 years ago, of course we had competition, and clients pushed back, and yes, they left, they went to new law firms, and we had to go replace them, and so on. Sure, there was competition, but demand was a constant. Right? Meaning everything was an opportunity cost. If I have my people doing business development, they're not billing time. Why? Because there's always time to bill. Literally always time to bill. The world's changed, right? So, this is the phrase I like. Anyone a Latin scholar? No Latin scholars? This is also the title of a West Wing episode. Remember that show? We need that show back, don't we? Post hoc ergo propter hoc. After it, therefore, because of it. It has to do with the confusion between causation and correlation. When something happens first and something happens second, we always think, oh, well, the second thing happened because of the first, because it preceded it. The reality is there's a confusion between cause and effect. I was making a lot of money as a big law firm, and therefore the things I was doing to market my services were working, right? Until 2009, when suddenly they stopped working. And what do? Hey, let's do more of that. Let's do more capability statements. Let's have everyone be a chair of some sub-practice group, and let's publish that in every directory we can find, because that's what has always won us work. No, not so much. Didn't win any work in the past. However, it was coincidental with winning work. And so they asked us to do a lot of things that were a waste of time, and many of us knew these were a waste of time. So our challenge is to try to help them understand that there are certain activities that generate work and make us money, and there are certain activities that don't. Let's try to find that correlation. All right, what's this? A kiosk. What are they selling there? Cell phones. All right. Do you know the top salesperson at a kiosk, cell phone kiosk in the mall wins an award, wins a trip sometimes? You know, for the East Coast folks, we send folks to, I don't know, like San Juan for 3 days and 4 nights for their award trip for the top salesperson. They win awards for this. Why do you think they win awards for top sales in a cell phone kiosk? Anyone here ever walk by a kiosk in the mall and the person grabs you and you're like, oh, don't spray me with perfume. Oh, it's not you, it's a different one. Okay, great. What do you want? Wouldn't it be nice if you could talk to your friends even when they weren't in the room? Well, yeah, that'd be great. Wouldn't it be awesome if you had a craving for pictures of funny cats and you could just look in your hands and there they are? And you said, wow, I need this. What are you selling? Right? Now, it's unlikely that the people who are selling a lot of cell phones in the kiosks are successful because they are telling us something we don't know, right? It's unlikely that they are successful because they have found a way to convince us that we need phones. We all need phones, and our kids need phones. They come out of the womb, they get a phone, right? Everyone has a phone now. So, assuming the features and the price points and the data plans and all that are roughly equal, and of course there's an arms race. If one's better this year, they'll all catch up next year and so on. But assume they're all equal, what's the ingredient for success? Customer service could be one of those, yes. But that doesn't always help you when you're buying. It helps retain you. It's an old adage in retail.
Just touches and approaches.
Touches and approaches could be, but I think it's a factor in location, right? The person who should win the award at the cell phone kiosk is the person who signed the lease in the mall that put me in this corner, or not corner, right in the center, where there's anchor store A on this side, there's anchor store B on that side, and there's food court right in front of me. The highest amount of traffic coming through is going to generate more volume because there's more touches, more visibility, right? So the idea is we're not necessarily comparing law firms to cell phone salespeople. What we're saying is we have been beneficiaries of unlimited demand, and we've been in the right place at the right time. That's not to say our lawyers have not practiced good law. I'm sure they have, right? And as we'll talk about, clients say, well, of course you practice good law. That's the only reason we're talking to you. So stop trying to prove your credentials to us. When we already have you in our sites, we've already assumed you have the right credentials. But we've been in the right place at the right time. So we need to break down how we make money. Rules, RULES. Anyone want to venture what this stands for? You've all looked ahead in your slides, you know. Realization, utilization, leverage, expenses, and speed. The 5 factors for how we make money in a professional services firm. How many of you have these on your radar every day as you come to work thinking, how can I impact realization? How can I impact leverage? How can I impact expenses? Oh, ding, 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 that one. Because we always go in and we ask for 5 more headcount because the number of RFPs has increased by 1,000-fold and our win rate has gone down. So we need more people to handle the volume of really stupid ideas we're asked to fulfill, right? And we're told no, so we're doing our part to hold down expenses, right? But we're not involved in most of these numbers. So let's talk about what they are and how we can get involved and what it means for us. All right, this is the law firm waterfall of profitability. We start with a max that we want to generate, and everything else is a debit to that until we have our profits at the year end. And then we divide those profits by partners, and then we get to PPP, or profits per partner. We start with a max. What does that mean? How many of us know the exact amount of money that our law firm leaders have determined, explicitly determined, that this is the max amount of revenue we will generate this year? Who knows that number? There's a number. Every one of us in a law firm has a number. We have explicitly determined, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the maximum amount of revenue that we want to generate. Sounds kind of crazy, right? If my daughter wanted to open up a lemonade stand on the front lawn and came to me for an infusion of capital, the first thing in her business case would not say, and I've decided to cap revenue. Why? How do we make money? We have our billable hour rates, we have how many hours we can bill, and we have the number of timekeepers. It's a simple formula. Timekeepers times their billable rates times the hours they can bill is the total amount of revenue we can generate in a given year. Period. It's a simple formula we've adopted as a profession. We have chosen to start the year by putting an absolute cap on our revenue. Now, many of us know we lose lawyers, we gain lawyers, and so on throughout the year. So it's a moving target, but it's always a target. At any given moment, we can say this is the absolute cap. Why in the world did we choose to cap our revenue? Don't ask me. So everything else is a debit until we get to profits per partner. So let's talk about utilization. I'm going to use very round numbers so we don't have to do math out here in public. I have a bunch of lawyers who have the ability to bill 1,000 hours of time. They bill 900 hours. Why? Do they suck? Are they lazy? What's a reason why a lawyer who could bill a full day of time does not? But they're in the office all day. What are some reasons?
They're not charging for some of the non-essential like copying and tax.
Non-billable activities, right? Clients are going to pay for it. And the client billing guidelines increasingly give us a list of things that are necessary to achieve the legal outcomes, but they're not going to pay for it. All right, so non-billable activities. What else?
They're going to write down some time.
They're going to write down some time. Yeah, then they're going to record it. What else? Non-billable activities. Personal calls, personal time, sure. Vacations, right? Throughout the given year, people are off, right? What else? And we're all evil doers in this room. We drag them away from billable hours. Why? Business development. We make them go talk to actual people who might buy services from us. And they're not billing time. So it's a debit against their capacity, right? So if I have 1,000 hours of capacity, how many hours I can bill, but I actually bill 900, that's my utilization. How much of my capacity am I using? That's my utilization rate. What's my utilization rate here? 90%. It's the easiest math you'll do all day. Also the hardest. Right? Utilization rate refers to how busy are our people. So think about that for a second. As we're pursuing our marketing plans for our practice groups, or our individual marketing plans, or our firm-wide strategic plan, are we thinking about, are we pursuing work where there's a high demand, or at least a high demand for us, that we have the right price point, we have the right people, and so on, that can make sure we're utilizing our people? Is utilization a factor? How many people can we keep busy? Sometimes we'll talk about law firms trying to generate profits. Well, sometimes profit is really an end result of their efforts. They're trying to do other things. One of the other things many law firms are trying to do, what they're solving for, is keep people busy. And if they keep people busy, it's always generated profits. But think about that. If your sole purpose as a law firm is whoever you got on your payroll, keep them busy, what things are you likely to do to make sure that they are billing time? Client calls up and says, we'd like to hire you, but you're out of our price range. Discount. Well, let's get to work. We'll find a way to make profits later. We'll give them the discount up front. Right? Our job is to keep these people busy because we have this carrying cost of lawyers. Who here knows somebody, I know no one here in the room would ever do it, but who here has ever been at like a store at 2 a.m. with the munchies? Ah, boy, I just need some Doritos. 2 a.m. And you walk into your local grocery store and there's 37 lines and there are 37 cashiers working. There are, every third line has a bag boy or bag girl. There's 4 runners up front to do price checks. And there's 3 people running carts to and from the lot at 2 in the morning. How many stores have you been to like that? We all work in law firms that operate much like that, right? One of the benefits to a law firm is that we have the ability to mobilize quickly when a client calls up. If a client calls up with an issue, we don't say, this sounds fantastic, we'd love to do the work, let's negotiate a price, great, we'll be ready to start in 9 weeks, as soon as we staff up and train. We don't have that luxury. We have the opportunity to staff up quickly and mobilize. So when a client calls up and has an issue, we're ready to go. So that means we often hire capacity that we don't know if we're going to have a need for it. And in business terms, that's a carrying cost, right? Think of the grocery store that has all of those lines open. That's a carrying cost. They're paying for lights and electricity and people and benefits in the unlikely chance that 2 busloads of tourists are going to come by at 2 in the morning and every line will be busy for 15 minutes and then go dark again, right? That's a law firm. So you can understand they're not making poor decisions when they say our job is to keep everyone busy. We've got a lot of people. It's a carrying cost. It's a sunk cost. We're already paying the salaries. We're already buying them the desk and the health insurance and their computer. So if we're not monetizing that resource, we're in trouble. So utilization rates, the higher we can get the utilization rates, the better off we are generally. Make sense? Simple concept. If we're paying for them and they're not billing time, they're not making us money. So utilization has both to do with how do we find enough work for them to do, as well as making sure the things that pull them away from this are minimized. So when we talk about business development, by the way, we've got to demonstrate that that's a money-making activity, not an activity that takes them away from making money. All right, realization. We have two different kinds of realizations. There is billing realization and collection realization. So, let's say, I'm going to go back to round numbers. We had 1,000, but we worked 900. In a perfect world, I'd start with 900, but that makes the math harder. So, we worked 1,000 hours. And then the associates submit their daily time entries, always on time, at the end of every day. And the partners always submit their time, always on time, at the end of every day. And at the end of a period, we get a pre-bills, and the partner looks at it and says, woo, 18 hours to research something that we've done 150,000 times in this firm. Not sure I can bill that, but thank you very much for trying. So they make some adjustments, and we bill the client a little bit less than we actually worked. And then the client gets the bill and says, oh, thank you for this great memo indicating what you would like us to pay you. But we've got some opinions about what we want to pay you. So we're going to make some adjustments too. That's realization. So the first realization is what we work versus what we bill. The billing realization. So this has to do with write-downs. Partner says, yeah, I appreciate that it took you 18 hours to do it, but I can't bill the client more than 3. Or the client said, no first-year associates working on this project. We assigned you to do the work, we're just not billing you for it. Right? Or, as we often have in many law firms, there isn't a lot of discipline around this. So a partner, because we trust them, they're owners, they can say, feels like too much, I'm going to write it down. Without the need for approvals or authority or any understanding of what the client's value perception is and so on. So we have an undisciplined approach in many cases to write-downs. So we bill less than we work. So if we work 1,000 hours and we bill 900, what's our billing realization rate? Don't you like my math? Isn't it so easy? Now, we send out the invoices to the clients. Clients get the invoices. I don't know about your clients, but when I was in-house, occasionally, once every 4 or 5 years, a client would call up and say, hey, I don't want to pay that. Now, of course, it happens all day, right? Clients look at the bills and they say, yeah, we want to negotiate this rate after the fact, after all the work's done. And so what we invoice, well, look, I'm going back to 1,000, versus what we actually collect is our collection realization. So we invoice 1,000 hours or $1,000, and we get 900 back. What's our collection realization rate? 90%. What do you think the national average is right now for a realization rate?
All together?
Yeah, all together, in aggregate for the profession. 87, 85. Any others? 82. Think about that for a second. How many of us, after negotiating our salary and starting on a Monday morning at our new job, 2 weeks in, we got our first paycheck, and we thought we were going to get $1,000, and we get $820. How many of us would say, darn, I'll work harder next time? And we work hard for another 2 weeks. We expect $1,000, and we get $820. And we get the paycheck, and we go, darn it! I hope everyone else is not in the same trouble as I am. Another week goes by, another pay period goes by, $820. Darn! How many times did you do that before you might call up your boss and say, hey, I have a question. We agreed on 1,000, I'm getting 820. Can you help me understand what's different that you are deciding to pay me less? Because I would like to know so I can adjust my behavior. How many of us have an institutional client feedback program? Crickets. You see the challenge? The clients are voting with their wallets. On a national average, we're at 82, 83%. Many of us in the room may be far higher. Used to be mid-90s was the norm, because there's always some reason, clients can't pay or they go bankrupt, right? So it's impossible to get 100% routinely across an entire firm. But mid-90s was pretty normal. Biggest firms I work with are usually in the high 80s or even low 90s, right? And as I was working with the chairman of one of the top 10 law firms in the world the other day, she said, like 87%, but I can't think of a single reason why our clients couldn't make us go to 82% in the next couple of years. All we can do is say we're good, smart, tall, good looking, our kids are handsome. There's nothing we can say or do that would be a rebuttal if they said we want to write down your bills more. She was scared out of her mind. So realization rate's pretty important. Now, what do you think is the most visible manifestation of the value we deliver as law firms? The most concrete, visible, tangible way that the clients see what it is we did? When they open up the mail and get the invoice, is often the first communication they've had that something's gone over budget. It's often the most detailed explanation of the activity that took place in a certain time period. How many people in the room are responsible for invoices? Not too many, right? As marketers, our job is to be voice of the client. Our job is to be sort of in charge of that experience, to help understand what the clients are saying. And yet, the number one way in which most of our clients see, it may not be fair, but this is the way they see the value we deliver, is on the invoices, and that's someone accounting function that we don't have any role in. So the math of the realization rates are that we work the time, but we can't bill it all, and then once we bill it, we don't collect it all. So you can see it's starting to debit. All right, leverage. Anyone remember your 9th grade general science class? Right? I can't lift that boulder. However, if we use mechanics, a lever and a fulcrum, I can reduce the amount of force needed to move that boulder, and that's leverage. So leverage in a law firm has to do with the fact that if I'm a partner and I can bill 2,200 hours at my high rate, I'm making these numbers up, 2,200 hours at $650 an hour. That's a good chunk of change. But that's nowhere near the economic benefit of selling some projects and putting a lot of other people to work. And here's why. It's a really simple concept. Leverage is that ratio, staffing ratio, of partners to associates. If I'm a partner billing $650 an hour, I might cost $550 an hour. Right? My compensation, my profit take, my computer, my desk, and so on. I'm an expensive person. If I'm an associate, maybe I bill at $350 an hour, but I cost $150 an hour. Leverage helps us when we push the work down to more profitable people rather than hoard it here. Ooh, look. So a couple years ago, clients stopped calling. Some of our practices were pretty idle, 25% utilization. They're sitting around, literally. And some firms are saying, let's negotiate anything to keep us busy, okay? Others are saying, we are not going to compromise our integrity by reducing our rates, so we're going to sit idle. We'd rather have that sunk cost, and we're going to wait it out, right? But some of the partners who had the opportunity to do work that they previously had delegated to associates, they kept it. Why? So while it may be bad for leverage and bad for profitability if I'm not pushing the work down, if I've got an hours quota and I keep the work, I get that. So oftentimes we have this conflict. Utilization is important. How many hours can I work? How many hours am I working? Well, the more I delegate to other people, the lower my personal utilization is. So during the tough times a couple years ago, we saw partners keeping work that they otherwise would delegate. That had a huge magnifying effect, negative effect. One, it made our associates vulnerable, right? And we laid off associates because they weren't as busy. Two, we overpriced the work because the partners were not doing the work at the associate rates. They were billing the partner rates, and the clients caught on really quickly, and they said, 2 years ago, you had an associate, Joe, doing this work, and now you're doing the work and you're charging me twice as much. Thank you very much, but we're going to find a different law firm. The fact that you're not busy and you're doing this work doesn't mean it's extra special work because a partner did it. The task is what we value, not who did it. Unless you can demonstrate that you have a substantially improved outcome than your associate, then we don't value it at your partner rates. So we impaired short-term profit, because leverage makes us profit. We impaired client relationships because we were focused on what is the goal of most law firms, partner satisfaction. We maximized short-term partner utilization, partner hours, so they were able to generate the hours for their comp plan. Again, I'm not being critical, it's just what they do. They're the owners of the business. Their job is to make money, and so they did what they needed to do, but it harmed them in the long run. So that's leverage. So as we look at our various projects and RFPs and pitches and proposals, we should be getting involved in the staffing discussions because it has a direct impact on profitability, particularly if there's an alternative fee arrangement in the mix. If the client says, here's the price point, or here's the value we have on this service, and we're staffing with all partners, we're top heavy, we're not going to be profitable because we may be profitable on a short-term basis, but we're not going to win the work again and again. Right? This is a one-time project and we're done. Which is another challenge in law firms. We think of profit as a one-year issue instead of a multi-year issue, which we'll come back to. Right? But the idea is, if we're helping them looking at staffing ratios and leverage ratios, we can say, look, we might have to compromise a little bit on rates in this negotiation, but if we staff it right, we can generate greater profits. Because we've got Sally and Tad and Joe and Bill and Mary, they all are great associates who do this work. We only need one partner looking in now and again. Right? Again, we're not necessarily going to be asked to be meddling in the affairs of the lawyers and how they practice law, but we can help them understand the economics of their practice. All right, expenses. This is where most law firms start. A couple years ago, every law firm had a cost containment committee of some sort, and they always start with looking at the expenses. We look at staff ratios, because you know what? There's nothing better than looking at other organizations that are dissimilar in size, with dissimilar markets and dissimilar clients and dissimilar economic bases, and say, hey, let's copy them. Right? Staffing ratios are meaningless, even within a firm in practices. We've got the real estate practice where paralegals do a lot of the work, and we need a high amount of staff. Right? Versus the other one over here where the partners do a lot of the work. We've got senior associates doing the work. And so why would we have a single staffing ratio that applies to all practices when it just killed this practice? Because now we have to get rid of all these paraprofessionals. But this other one over here has everyone sitting idle because, well, that's what the ratio said. It's a foolish notion made by lazy managers. And corporate managers do it all the time too. Right? When a corporate CEO says, oh my God, we had a tough year, everyone cut 10% across the board, which happens all the time. What you're saying is, I'm really bad at figuring out which parts of my business make money, and so I'm going to unilaterally decide that we're going to hurt everyone, instead of doubling down on those that can make us more money and catch us up, and underfunding those that are losing us money. We're going to say everyone takes a cut. Same thing with staffing ratios. They're a really, really blunt instrument for very poor managers. So we look at staffing ratios. We tell our staff they can't go to the LMA conference, and only 3 of us can belong to the local chapter because, well, it's really expensive to spend the $50 a year. Right? But yet we don't look at the way we practice law. We're losing money in our collections. We're losing money in our realization, our utilization. We're losing money because of poor leverage. We start with expenses. Why? Because that's someone else. So many law firm leaders that I work with, they mean well, but it doesn't occur to them that starting with our overhead is so far down that waterfall that you can make an impact, but it's not going to have nearly the same impact is if you start farther up the waterfall. And collections. It's R-U-L-E-S because S works instead of C for collections, so speed of collections. Who here has a law firm where their collections are all under 30 days before they're received? Most of us have like 90-day receivables, 120-day receivables, and then at year end we get this exciting time where everyone's got to go collect the money. Right? After Thanksgiving, the managing partner sends out a pleasant note saying, hope everyone had a great holiday. I'd like you to start thinking about your collections. We want to end the year on a good note, so call up your clients. Second week of December, we get another note, a little more stern. Hey, we've had a couple, nice checks come in, but really, we really got to buckle down. We're all in this together, folks. This is our business. We've got to collect. Right? Christmas week comes around. I expect everyone to be here on the 25th by noon, making calls. And December 30th comes around, the managing partner sends a note saying, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to kill your puppies. We need the cash. Do whatever it takes. So what do we do to collect the money at the last second? Discounts. What an idea. You're ready to be a law firm partner. So we discount. Think about that. We've already had this capacity. We didn't work all of it. We didn't bill all the time we worked. We certainly didn't get collected all the invoices we sent in the past. We've made a minor dent in our overhead because we've gotten rid of the free coffee on the staff floors. right? We've had poor leverage because the partners hoard hours because they're not busy. And now when it comes time to collect, we offer an additional discount because we were too lazy to actually make the phone calls earlier on. So now at the very last second, do you think the clients aren't aware of this? Well, if I wait till the last week of December, well, I bet you I can get a hell of a discount. Oh, I don't know. My accounting department's gone for the year. We'll have to find a way to manually cut a check in this big Fortune 500 company. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. There's no one here. Tumbleweeds. But 40% discount, I bet you we could find a way to get a check on FedEx tomorrow. So we make all of these decisions in isolation. So I poke fun, right? But here's the way it works in a law firm. We are very busy, so we have a lot of folks who are both owners, and therefore they believe they're also managers and field generals, making these decisions on the fly in isolation, the aggregate of which are often terrible business decisions. But we don't ever look at them in aggregate. We don't look at them at the moment. Oh, we want to win this work, let's discount it. Oh, we have to write down your hours? Okay, that's necessary. Well, you know what? We're gonna not put Charlie on this job. I'll keep the work. You know, we make these decisions, but in aggregate we look at them and we say, wow, that had a real impact on the profitability. But it didn't matter in the past. Why? Because there was always so much work coming in, demand was always high, that we made profits no matter what. It was just an endless cycle. This is the challenge. When this piece goes down, or demand is no longer a constant, it's a variable, where we don't know if we'll be able to utilize our resources, then this all falls apart. And this is the fundamental challenge facing our profession right now. We can't guarantee the phone's going to ring. And this economic model assumes the phone will always ring. So why wouldn't we look at a different model? Well, that's what we're struggling with, trying to help them understand. So, by the way, want to talk about law firm strategy? If the clients are pushing back a little bit on rates, anyone have a client ever say, oh, I want to pay more increases? Of course, right? They're pushing back on rates. Anyone read the, was it DLA a year ago, the overbilling, or the, what was it, baby churn memo? Where we bill more hours than we need to, right? That's sort of the essence of why the clients are saying, no first-year associates on my matter because we know you're gonna bill 10 hours where it would take someone else 1, right? If we have a limit to how much we can increase our rates, we have a limit to how many hours we can bill. There's also a functional limit. I can't bill more than 24 hours in a day. What's left? We want to generate more money. What's left? Our formula is rates times hours times timekeepers. We don't have the flexibility to raise rates, right? We can't overbill our clients or they'll push back and fire us. So what do? We get more timekeepers, right? And we call it a strategy. Let's get a lateral with a book of business. Let's go acquire another firm or another practice. Why? Not because strategically we've determined that this practice over here, practice Z, is a perfect complement to our practice A, B, and C. Where we have a need, we're always referring business to other law firms because we don't have that practice. Let's go get Z because it's a perfect complement. No, we say, oh, we hear Z is on the market. They're looking. They must be profitable because they are a different firm. They must make money. They promise they'll bring over an $8 million book of business. We need $8 million. Don't we? Yes, we need $8 million. Good, let's do it. Let's make them an offer. Let's make them a guarantee. Let's bring them over and other people, right? And we'll grow our firm, and that's how we'll make more money. The reality is it's not much of a strategy. Acquisitions and lateral recruits are a fantastic tactic to fulfill a strategy if that's your goal. But as a way to generate more money when we're just adding timekeepers, if that's all you have left, you're not a law firm strategist. You're doing all that's left. So that's part of the challenge our leaders face. They don't have any more levers to press. They don't know what else to do. So here's a different future we want to talk about. Little elephant in the circus, they tie him up with a rope and a chain so he can't get away. How do you think they tie up the big elephants at the circus? Big huge chain, cement thing in the ground, right? No, same rope, same stake in the ground. Why? Well, we know we're not math majors and we're not Latin scholars. Anyone here a psychology major?
That's all I have.
Learn behavior, right? Our partners, they're strict reliance on precedent has left them in this box. They're like a little elephant. I was young, I tried to pull the stake out of the ground, I tried to break the rope, I couldn't, therefore it's not possible. They've never seen it. So when we talk to law firms about making more money through AFAs or other approaches, they're like, you're wrong, Tim. There is not another way to make money. This is the only way to make money. They're not even trying to pull the stake out of the ground. Our challenge is helping them understand there's a different future. All right, so simple economics lesson. The red is our fees and the blue is our costs. As long as our fees are higher than our costs, we make money. And this is the model that most law firms operated under for years. We don't know how, but as long as we generate more fees than our costs, we make money. We divide up that profit. Price pressure, which happens in all markets, is going to sooner or later impact us one piece at a time. Now, we've seen some law firms dissolve. Very rarely do the law firms we see in the news dissolve because they really have not enough cash coming in the door to pay their bills. That is so unusual. The dissolutions occur more often when there is a breakdown in the fabric of the partnership, where they just don't trust each other to stick around and share the liabilities and the potential, right? So that's not a likely scenario, but you can look at your individual practices or even some individual partners with individual sort of like matters that they favor. If the clients are saying, I am paying 50% less now than I was 10 years ago for the same service, and the partner is still practicing law the same way, that's going to happen. Who here bought a flat screen TV this year? Anyone? Consumer spending's up. You need to go, we'll wait, go on. Go online, go to Amazon. No. I bought a flat screen TV. And if your experience is like mine, if you look at your local ads, you'll find that if you buy one now, it is bigger, flatter, sharper, and half the cost of a couple years ago. Does anyone think that Samsung or Sony's on the verge of bankruptcy? No, because they know that consumers over time will always want to pay less. Always, 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 always. I don't know why we're surprised as a profession that clients suddenly are getting savvier about their buying, and they're saying, if I pay you for this thing 100 times, and it turns out there's 50 other law firms in town that can do this very same thing, why would I pay you twice as much as the other people? I might respect you enough to pay you a little bit more, but why would I pay you twice as much as everyone else? So monetization and price pressure happens. Our cost cutting will dampen the impact a little bit. We get rid of the free coffee, yeah, we'll save some money, a little bit, but it's not going to fundamentally alter our future. Here is the new economic model for law firms. It is not new by any stretch to anyone else on the rest of the planet who runs a business. This notion of profiting from experience is how every other business makes money. Who here's bought a car in the last year? Did you pay by the hour? Did you ask the dealer how many hours it took to build the car and negotiate an hourly rate? No, of course not. Why? Because the car manufacturer over time has determined that this is the value of the car to you, and that's sort of crowdsourced, right? Because you could go to the next town over to a similar dealer, and they can charge you less. So you find a number that seems equivalent to what you see the value to be, and you buy it. And you don't care how they manufacture it as long as there's a promise of quality and a value delivered at that price. We, however, in the legal profession, equate quality with the amount of hours it takes to build something. And we already saw how that's a really poor economic model. It hurts us. But the clients are pushing back too. So why not embrace the model that says, if we've done this 1,000 times, why don't we find some efficiency